Welcome again. My name is Will Murtha, and I'm the author of Create Your Own Life Story. I'm here with my lovely wife, Jayne, who's also a coach, and we are business partners together in our coaching company, TLC.
Business partners and life partners.
And life partners as well, that's right. And welcome today to part two on confidence, one of the biggest subjects that we end up talking to our clients about. And this is the part two in a series of 10 topics which I've picked out to take from the book, Create Your Own Life Story. So we're really going to kick off with the misconceptions, Jayne, aren't we, on confidence, because we see it in clients all the time. Confidence, I think, is a bit like leadership, in that people think you're either born confident or born a leader, and that's just simply not true, is it? It's developed, isn't it, rather than born?
It's built on experience. It's built on trial and error. And the worst thing about confidence is people don't realise that it's not something that you own inside. It's something that you build as you go along. And we're not all instant stars. Learning to play the piano like Liberace takes many years of practice. So we sometimes put brakes on ourselves before we start, because we have these expectations that we have to be good.
I think as well, we know from the people that we coach, we coach from right this end of the spectrum to people that are, on the television every day and in the sports world, and we know that confidence is not quite what people think, is it? That even the real high performers, top achievers, are really not quite as confident as probably the rest of the world think of them.
Yeah, it's finding building blocks. It's forming your identity as you go along, isn't it? You're not an instant overnight success. It takes time, and it takes preparation. You have to get organised. You have to expect that you're going to make mistakes, and instead of seeing them as huge failures, just see them as mistakes, as it's trying, and then maybe having a bit of a hiccup, but learning from that hiccup. That's what gives it value. So the next time you come to it, you've got that bit of experience thinking, oh yeah, I realised, going left instead of right isn't the right way with that.
I've never heard that before. Mistakes. I like that. I'm going to borrow that one.
Oh, right. Okay.
Probably going to pinch it. The way I try and say it to clients is that it's a bit like going to the gym, building confidence.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go to the gym for 2 weeks and at the end of 2 weeks look in the mirror and go, where's my six pack? I think confidence is a bit like that. We've got to gradually build it step by step. Yes. Comfort zone break by comfort zone break, and just gradually realise it's probably one of the biggest projects that we're all going to learn in our lives, no matter how much we think we're confident. And me and you appreciate this, and we're talking about this all the time, in that, I always think that confidence is a bit as a family. And the minute you start working on your confidence and getting better at building up your self-confidence, the kissing cousins, I call them, start to improve. So your self-esteem, self-belief, self-reflection, self-awareness, everything to do with the self starts to improve, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, you're building trust with yourself. Every time that you do something, you learn a little bit more. And it's actually to give yourself permission. Often we look for outside validation in order to start things. Somebody saying, oh, you'll be good at that. Well, yeah, that might give you a bit of encouragement, but actually you've got to find it within yourself. And actually take a risk, be daring, be a bit brave. A few years ago, well, quite a few years ago now, I was asked to work as a croupier for a fun casino, and a friend of mine had trained on the cruise ship, so she'd been to card school and she knew how to do this, that and the other. And anyway, I could count up to 21, and they hired me as a blackjack croupier. Now, it was absolutely terrifying. My very first one I did was for a big Christmas party for a big company, a shoe Clark's company. And I was actually shaking under the table. People didn't realise I didn't really know what I was doing. But I played the game, and I enjoy playing the game. And that was what gave me the confidence over the many times I did it, was to enjoy what I was doing and not to worry if I made a mistake. Quickly own it and say, oh, yeah, okay, you're right, I'm wrong. And it taught me so much about myself and helped me to build my confidence. And yet it was quite vulnerable as well. But I could tell you loads of stories about the people I met and the things I did. And, in the end, I had, people eating out my hand with the way I did it because I became so confident at it. But, the first year, yes, it took me time to learn my trade and learn the way that I did it best. Stop comparing myself and validating myself on how other people did it. I did it the Jayne way.
I think that's a good point, love, because comparing ourselves and looking up at everyone that we think is confident from the outside, and yet they're not quite as confident as they project, because we know when we're coaching these people, and we've watched them on TV, we've watched them, and they, we know what was going on half an hour before.
Yeah.
And so
probably throwing up.
and so my thing really is with when clients are talking about confidence, and let's face it, it will come up with every client at some time or another. And I think I tend to want to start with self-awareness of acknowledging and sitting with the fear, because I'm always trying to sort of put it to my clients that there is a fear inside of us. We all have it, and you can either, like a beach ball, you can push it below the surface and pretend it's out of sight. But as we know, with all beach balls, they eventually come back up to the surface again, usually harder. And I think if we try and deny the fear around when we're trying to do something for the first time, that's where I usually start with clients, because I think getting that fear out and admitting it, sitting with it, identifying it, and trying to sort of reframe it, definitely accept it. I think that is always the first phase, isn't it, for confidence building.
Yeah. You don't let the power be taken away from you. You say to yourself, no, okay, it's all right to feel like this. Everybody feels like it. Because I think when we're on centre stage or we're worried about something, we draw all the outside world like they've got it, we haven't. But actually people are all struggling, especially since the pandemic. People have really struggled with their confidence. Don't you think so?
I think so. I think it's probably one of the biggest markers, call it, that we've seen go down in people is super confident people are just not so confident now. And, we've in some cases, we've got to rebuild it. And I think what for me, if you were to sort of look at fear is not in the mind. Fear is often, it's an emotion. So, me and Jayne will always sort of talk about, fear is in the body. So thinking in the head, cognitive, the feeling, emotion, which is where the chemicals show up, they are in the body, aren't they? And I think, I think what we all have to do, the next stage after self-awareness, what I would always say to clients is that take action. Because we can try and get confident in our head, we can work at it, we can, tell ourselves we're confident, but it's not until the actual doing, Confidence is an action and it's a verb, it's a doing. And I think the only way to start flourishing and start getting more confident is just to go through the pain barrier, which means to do the action, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I think that... when I've had problems with my confidence, it's always because I'm concerned that, I'm always looking for certainty. I'm always looking that, it's an assured outcome. And actually, it's only going and making friends with the unknown that you actually find the skills that you've got within yourself to handle anything.
Yeah. And I think, Mel Robbins does it brilliantly, doesn't she? In her book, she talks about the concept. For those that haven't seen it before, I'd highly recommend Googling it, because Mel talks about how the fear is there. The fear is there anyway.
Yes, it's there to protect you.
It's there to protect us because you're doing something that you've not done before. But the way Mel sort of sets it up is she says, she basically counts it down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what you've got to do, you've got to try and make sure that you make that phone call before you get to one, to jump on and put your hand up in class, or put your hand up or say something in a meeting, because the inner critic, which we know can smash up our inner world, we're constantly talking to our clients about the inner critic, basically that negative self-talk that can talk you down. I'm not good enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not able enough.
It cripples you.
It does. It is crippling. And if you let it, so what the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 does, it enables you to get to a point where you jump. You're not fully confident. You're jumping into the unknown, but you're actually telling yourself, look, the fear is going to be there anyway, and I'm going to jump before I get to one. I think it's a great concept, great tool.
Yeah. You're building your wings on the way down. It's the leap of faith. It's backing yourself. That's what self-trust is built on. It's you backing you.
Yeah.
It's not looking for other people to back you. It's actually you showing up and actually having a little faith in yourself.
Yeah. And I think, so the bottom line really is with fear is that, which is I think the opposite of confidence, is that we have to befriend fear. We have to get to know it. Don't keep pushing it away, push it down. Don't distract ourselves from it. Don't deny it, because it's there. It's a real energy inside of us. And it's like any negative emotion. If you don't face it, it will come for you at some time. And I think, so I try and get my clients always to change their relationship with fear, so that, it's a friend and not a foe. And what do I mean by that? It's really that the fear has got messages for you. It's got life lessons. It's got a boot camp. It's there to help you grow and become better. It's not against you. It's there working for you. And I'll give an example. One of my clients plays in the Premiership. He said a few years ago when he was in a cup final, and I said to him, what do you feel just before you go out of the tunnel and in front of 80,000, 100,000 people? And he said, absolute paralysis, fear. And I said, well, would you want me to take that away from you? And he said, well, no, because all that adrenaline rush and all that cortisol rush, we think it's working against us. It's actually working for us to make us better, because we care about it, to keep us sharper, because that's what cortisol and adrenaline does in the bloodstream. It makes us more alert. So, that fear is actually there for a reason, to make us better and ready for the performance, like in his case, when he goes out onto the pitch.
And it's just about letting it go, because then you can use that energy as good energy. So, that adrenaline is actually motivation. That's motivating you into action. Yeah. And once you let go, the problem is, a lot of people try and hold on to it, because it's that, I've got to keep myself safe. But actually, it's in that out-breath, that actually freeing yourself, that you find what you're actually capable of. And your world get bigger, you get bigger. Whereas if you're always waiting for the right moment, we can all be overthinkers. We can always be planning something and thinking it all the way through and thinking of the results, but we don't take an action. And, thinking without action is just like sitting in a rocking chair. It's a nice ride, but it doesn't get you anywhere in life.
Oh, I like that one. So, I think we've got to change one of the big things, we've got to redefine and reframe. We've basically got to change our relationship with fear, haven't we? Yeah. Because we've made it a foe, and really it is a friend, if we can look at it in a mindset shift from that. And, so we've got to be more confident. This is coming back to confidence. We've got to be more confident of the unknown, the uncomfortable, the unfamiliar, the uncertain. Uncertainty has been the big one that comes up in our coaching sessions all the time. And I think we've got to sit with uncertainty and actually start to get used to it, because we're living in a transforming world. Almost nothing is certain anymore, is it?
Absolutely.
And I think that, we can't pretend that fear isn't there, and, try and push that fear down like the beach ball below the water. It's not going to work for you. But I think what, the Apollinaire, which is one of our favourite quotes, is that, come to the edge. And it's really about, sometimes we have to fly, a bit like a chick for the first time leaving the nest and flying for the first time. We have to trust ourselves with everything that we're doing for the first time, don't we?
Yeah. And also what I'd like to add is humour.
Yeah.
Laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we take ourselves far too seriously. And, you know, and actually, if you laugh at yourself, especially if you're feeling nervous or you feel you've made a mistake, you're owning it. You're saying, oh, I've made a mistake. It's okay. You know, and people will actually come closer. They will connect with you more, because we've all been in that situation. I mean, last week I was doing a live Facebook Lives to a coaching platform, and you know, because our office is a little bit tinny, I had to have headphones on. And one morning I started, and I was talking for 5 minutes, and they could hardly hear me. So Bill sort of walked into the office, and then I realised I didn't. So I could have frozen. I could have thought, oh, you know, I'm crippled by this. I can't move on. I didn't. I laughed. I said, oh, well, there we go. Carried on. And at the end, I apologised, and I said, oh, sorry for that cock up. And it just took all that useful energy and used it well, rather than let it cripple me and close me down.
You breezed it, didn't you? You breezed it. It was quite funny at the time, but you breezed it. And
I would have been, you know, a few years ago, I would have been mortified by that. But that is, you know, with more practice, more failures, but fall forward with your failures.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is learn from them.
So you know, the question I think we want to finish with for the last few minutes is you know, what happens if you are not confident, and what happens if you let fear control and run your life? So I'm going to give you sort of an idea, because you're going to face the pain anyway. So if you don't face fear, it is going to confront you, and it's going to boss you. And actually, an unfulfilled life will usually be one where we've let fear win, and confidence didn't really get to shine through, did it? And we see this with clients, you know, all the time in the beginning sessions, where they've held themselves back for so many years because of fear, and they just needed the mind muscle of confidence to feel a bit more sort of positive, that they can break through things that they've not done before. So, you know, if you do let fear win, you know, your frustration is going to grow, your self-shame is going to grow, that self-critic is going to smash your inner world up, because you know, she is going to take over your internal world. Your limiting beliefs are going to just get stronger, aren't they? And I think
you'll let opportunities pass you by.
Yeah.
And you know, you can get that on a gut level, can't you?
Yeah.
When you think, you know, someone offered you an opportunity, and maybe somebody else jumped out the chair and said, oh, I'll do it. Or you pushed someone else to do it because you were just too scared.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so sad of not having lived your life the way you wanted to, because you've got, you know, as every year passes, we get a bit older. You know.
Can't say I've noticed, but I think, if you know, the thing is, if courage doesn't show up, which is that Mel Collins 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you've got to jump even though you don't feel confident. You know, if courage doesn't show up, your inner critic is going to take over your inner world. And really, the object of coaching is to try and to dial down your inner critic, and so your confident inner coach can start to rise. And I think, you know, if you let fear win and confidence doesn't come through, this is where procrastination can start to rule your life. This is where analysis paralysis comes in, isn't it? And actually, you know, we've all met people, we've all been that person at different stages of our life, where we've let procrastination dominate us because we're fearful of moving. And basically, procrastination is just going around in circles with no door.
Yeah. And also sometimes we have a fear of success. We're actually frightened of the attention. But actually, you know, if you don't put yourself up there, and you know, you'll forever regret it. And I think Bonnie Ware wrote a book on 5 regrets of the dying. And you know, one of the most common one is people realizing that they didn't show up at themselves, and they've you know, they lost touch with people that were important to them because they didn't have that courageous conversation that perhaps might have saved the relationship.
It's a great book for anyone that, 5 Regrets of the Dying, Bronnie Ware. And, you know, I always, what sticks out for me is, I think the number one was, wish I would have lived a life true to myself and not what other people thought of me. And I think that is really tragic, that there are people going to their graves where they've worried so much about people pleasing, FOPO, fear of other people's opinions, and not lived their own life because they've not been that confident enough.
Or, you know, they've fallen out with somebody and they haven't spoken to that person, you know, like their brother or something, and they can't actually remember what the quarrel was about. You know, I used to work for the NHS for 16 years, and I heard many stories like that.
It's tragic. It's tragic. So
Thank
thank you, Jayne. So we've come to the end of number 2 on confidence. We're going to be picking it up back on Power Hour for part 3, and it's taken from chapters in the Create Your Own Life Story book, which we're really enjoying sharing different videos, and we'll be back with next time. So thank you very much.
Thank you.